Hey, you guys, welcome back to Heal, Survive, and Thrive. It has been a month since I think I have posted a video because I have been so incredibly sick. I'm sure you can still hear it in my voice. I'm still a little congested. This is the never ending cold that just like won't go away. I'm talking like sore throat, completely lost my voice at one point, coughing, sneezing, a sinus infection I had. Body aches, feeling so tired, so drained. So if you are sick right now, I feel you. So just take a minute, get your little humidifier, get some warm water with honey, sit back, you can listen to the podcast or watch this on YouTube. But I'm kind of glad to be back. I got to be honest with you. I'm just like ready to get back to like normal life. And I'm sure you can attest when you're sick, there's nothing worse than just feeling so horrible and then getting out of your routine. As you can tell, it is really dreary out today. So December 2nd, we are probably going to get some snow today. So let's hunker down and let's kind of tackle some really important things towards overcoming and healing. One of the things that I am so passionate about, and I've talked about it for years because I don't think we realize just how much it actually influences how we live our lives, how we feel about ourselves, the things that we go after, goals that we achieve, how happy we feel inside, like all of it. Like I'm talking mental health. Your mental health really starts with the things that you go through and like the emotional stuff that you go through, the wounds that you carry with you for pretty much your whole life. We all have scars. We all have things that we've all been through. And if we don't know what they are or know how they have stayed with us for many years, caused us massive anxiety, PTSD, panic attacks, insecurities, codependency, the list is very long. If we don't know what's going on inside of ourselves, then it's going to dictate our entire lives. So I have made it kind of like my mission, and it's really what I talk about all the time. I don't just talk about narcissistic abuse or going through perimenopause or anything. It's all of these different phases that we go through in life, whether it's divorce, heartbreaks, breakups, just difficulties, transitional periods that we go through that are really hard and really painful. And if we don't understand how to really go through those times and heal from some of the stuff that we've been through, it's going to dictate our entire lives. And so I am here to talk about really the core emotional wounds that we all experience to some degree and how they impact our lives and how they're showing up in your life. And of course, at the end, we'll start talking about really how do you actually heal from this stuff? Everything that you've been through throughout the course of your entire life has led you to this point. Every relationship that you have, every job or career, the money, the life, the happiness, the health, all boils down to where you live mentally and emotionally, how well you can take care of yourself, how well you can go through a difficult time and overcome some of the things that you've been through. Now, overcoming sometimes just means getting through the experience. Overcoming doesn't mean actually healing from the experience. So you go through something really painful and you survive that experience. And a lot of people think surviving it means I got over it or I healed from it or it's not affecting me anymore. That's not how it works. You go through something and you survive it. And then after, when you get into like a really great place, you start to see some of the remnants of what it is that you went through and how it's affecting you today. That's when you kind of take a step back and you realize nothing really was healed. I was just actually surviving what it was that I was experiencing or going through, whether it was a divorce, a breakup, narcissistic relationships, family dynamics, childhood experiences, a really crappy, toxic work environment, whatever the situation that pertains to your life, you were just going through that. You went through it really beautifully. You survived it, but nothing really changed. You're still experiencing the same insecurities, anxiety, low self-esteem, negative self-talk, poor mental health, poor emotional health, inability to soothe yourself. You can't validate yourself. You're looking for and seeking it from others. You live in a codependent state. You're an avoidant person. You're an anxious attachment person. You attract crappy relationships. We can keep going on and on. And the reason why I can keep going on and on is because of these core things that have not been healed. Every single person walking this earth has gone through something that has created an emotional abandonment wound. Really, abandonment does start in childhood. So if you felt unseen, unheard, maybe physically someone left you, you felt unsupported, You didn't feel like people really knew who you were or understood or empathized with you. All of those things combined, if they're happening repeatedly, you will start to create an abandonment wound inside of you. It forms because people that you believe are supposed to be doing these roles, which they very much were, especially in childhood, not really in your adulthood, but definitely in childhood. These people were supposed to give you certain things that you did not get. And since you did not get them, it created a void. So if your parent or whoever was kind of raising you was very distant emotionally, maybe they were distant physically, they just weren't even there. If they just kind of shut down when things got difficult. They had an inability to relate to you, so they couldn't really empathize with you. They didn't try to understand you. I mean, hell, they may not have even asked you any questions. They may not have even been curious about how you were feeling, what you needed, or maybe if you expressed it, you got denied. You got invalidated. You received absolutely no empathy whatsoever. When those things happen time and time again, you will begin to feel unseen, unheard. When that starts to happen, you just shut down. You could have had a parent that was very much present, tried to be there for you, maybe even physically was always there for you and did some things really well, but maybe they were always preoccupied. Maybe they were emotionally unavailable. Maybe you never heard "I love you." Maybe you never had anyone really ask you, what do you think and how do you feel? And even when you expressed yourself, you didn't really get anything back. Situations where parents divorced, where someone left physically. That kind of separation that you feel by not having that parent present creates abandonment. It can also start to create the fear of being left. And now we start, growing up, becoming an adult, and now we have an anxious attachment to relationships and people where we're constantly fearing that someone's going to leave us. And then we try to hang on even tighter where we end up suffocating the person in the relationship and we sabotage it. We have these extremes where parents very much either physically weren't there or emotionally weren't there. And sometimes those are very easy to spot where you're like, yeah, I know, I get it. My dad was completely emotionally unavailable, or mom pieced out and left us. Those situations are very black and white, and we can clearly see that there's an abandonment issue there or an abandonment wound that will absolutely form in every single person that experiences that. The tricky part is when the parents are present and the parents are loving. You can be loving, you can be physically attentive, you can be nurturing, but not be able to validate and empathize a child. That's where the relationship is inconsistent. When the relationship is inconsistent, then you're still not getting what it is that you needed from that person because it's unpredictable, that relationship. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. And that is really where you start even creating some codependency or craving it, because what's happening is it's a switch goes off. Maybe they're really stressed. Maybe they have a lot on their plate. Maybe they're going through something in their own life, and they just can't be there for you in the way that they probably should. And that's why it's so important as parents, as adults, to always be taking care of ourselves the best way we can, because we cannot care and be the best parent if we're a mess, if we're going through our own stuff. And we're all human and it takes a village. But when you're talking about previous generations that were completely unaware as to what they were doing and how it was creating these kind of wounds in children that would later become adults that would have huge mental problems, huge emotional problems, be stuck in horrible relationships, be completely codependent, and they have absolutely no idea why. And then you end up as an adult going to therapy and you're sitting there for 10 years and nothing's really getting resolved, because you might understand why you are the way you are, but the problem's not getting fixed. When you have abandonment wounds, and to some extent, again, we all do, they show up in different ways. Someone who is narcissistic has an abandonment wound, but the way it shows up for them is they are a taker. For a codependent, they are a giver. So it's the same abandonment wound, it just shows up a little differently, and the remnants of it is different in terms of what that person wants in order to feel safe. How it shows up in adulthood is the fear of being alone, or fearing that someone will leave you, clinginess, being very over dependent on a person, codependency, really having a hard time being able to even trust people, always waiting for the other shoe to drop, the anxiety that sometimes you feel when someone doesn't respond right away to you, or just like the nervousness that you can experience when just maybe someone isn't available to you and can't be there for you and won't be able to help you. The way you feel alone inside when that happens, being the fixer, overcompensating, doing too much because you want to feel needed in the relationship, or it almost feels good to feel needed because you're the fixer and you're always doing things. Can anyone relate to any of this? Are we all on the same page here? I mean, even as I was saying it, I'm like, been there, been there, been there. So all of us have experienced these things. That's why we're here. We're trying to learn how to be the healthiest we can be. So we are not a codependent person. So we are not seeking validation. So we know how to take care of ourselves. So we feel okay being able to take care of ourselves, not fearing being alone. So let's start with, how do we actually heal this? The first thing I want you to understand, or kind of write down, or this is your therapy session, is let's go back to the basics. Understand who left, who disappointed you, who didn't show up, who was not the person that you wanted them to be. In what ways did they not show up for you? What would you have wanted them to do that they were unable to do? And also, do you even understand how they were not ever going to be able to give you those things? That right there is your therapy. That's what takes 10 years for you to really understand. That's usually when you unleash all of these stories about your past. And it could be childhood and it could be in your adulthood. I mean, we still are experiencing abandonment, even in adulthood. Did your wife leave you? Did your ex-husband just, cheat on you and discard you? What have you gone through? Where did a friend just not show up when you really wanted them to? What was it that you really wanted from this person that they're just not able to actually give you? And how is it creating any of these things to show up in your life? The fear of being alone, abandonment, clinginess, overdependency, codependency, trusting others, anxiety when people don't show up for you when you want them to, a fear of no one ever showing up, the fear of dying alone, like all of these things that we experience. Which one is really hitting home for you, and who is the person that's kind of triggering this fear inside of you? Healing any wound that I'm going to talk about today is all going to boil down to you learning how to parent yourself. I've been talking about this for, oh my God, I don't even know, 8-9 years now. Self-parenting is mental health. It is the only thing that you need to learn, because in order to really, you're not going to not have an abandonment wound. You're not going to not have any of these wounds. But what you want to do is, when they show up, first off, you want them to show up less. Let's be honest. And when you really start taking care of yourself, they show up less. They're not going to never show up ever again. So I don't care who you follow. If you're following an anxiety coach, if you're following a, trauma coach, or a therapist that talks about like healing and overcoming PTSD or whatever, you will always have this inside of you. Let me just emphasize that. So we're all on the same page and we don't have unrealistic expectations. Because I think sometimes when we listen to other people that have gone through situations that might be similar to ours, or have gone through something really painful, and they have the answers, and we're watching and we're taking notes, there's this feeling I think that people carry where they say, look at that person, they've gone through this, they're on the other side. And yes, to some extent, they have done work and they are on the other side of a lot of things that they've been through, but they're not human. They still feel, they still experience things. Do they feel it to the extent that they used to? Absolutely not. Does it show up in the same ways? Probably not. Does it show up in the same amount? No, definitely not. If you really do the work, those things will absolutely subside, if not fully go away, but will go away 98% of the time. Absolutely, that will happen for you. But you are still a human being, and things will still trigger you your entire life. You're still going through life, and you still have other things to experience, whether it's traumas, difficulties, transitions, all of that. So have realistic expectations on what this actually means to heal from something. Healing is a continuous process. It is something that you will do for your entire life, because every period or phase of your life that you go through, like all of us, you're going to have an uphill and you're going to have a down. So when it's good, it's good. And when it's bad, it sucks. And you have to just ride the wave because this too shall pass. So when it's bad, this too shall pass. When you're sick, this too shall pass. When it's going great, unfortunately, this too shall pass. So enjoy the waves that you go through, but understand that you're always ebbing and flowing. And as you ebb and flow, you're going through a new set of challenges. But if you have the basic skills, if you've learned self-parenting and you know how to mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually take care of yourself while you're going through those down times, you will have the tools in the tool shed to be able to overcome what it is that you've been through. And this phase that you've gone through that was really challenging, it's going to give you a new set of things that you're learning that you didn't learn before. So it's going to give you have the skills, and the down times that you go through, it's going to give you like a new sense of, or a new strength, a new next level that you get to where you're like, I thought I was strong then, but now I'm strong now. Now this is setting me up for what it is that I want next in my life. Because every phase and every difficulty is obviously giving you a teaching moment, even though we don't want them. We don't want to go through anything difficult. No more teaching moments. I'm waving my white flag. Each thing will set you up for what it is that you say you want. So that downtime is setting you up to be able to climb the next mountain that you're looking to climb. You have to be able to, or not be able to, but you just got to start practicing. You got to start practicing every single day, being able to validate yourself, because validation is really huge. In order to heal from something, you have to allow yourself to actually be human. And a lot of us don't want to be human. We want to be superheroes. We want to be able to get through something really quickly. We don't want to feel uncomfortable. We don't like being in those, ditches and in those down periods. And look, no one wants to be in them, but it is a part of life, and being able to just accept that this is the period of my life where I'm in a little bit of a funk or I'm going through something really difficult. As long as you have the willingness to want to progress, to want to heal, to want to get out of the ditch, you will get out of the ditch, because at some point you're going to find an answer, whether it's this podcast, whether it's something else, whether it's a little tidbit, whether it's just your own mind and you're driving in the car one day and all of a sudden this like epiphany comes over you and you're like, okay, I got it. And you just start moving forward. You just can't give up. You can't say that this is going to be my life forever. I'm always going to feel this way, because that's just not the case. The important thing with validation that no one tells you, because this is when I always say, you got to validate yourself. You got to validate yourself. The reason why it's important is because validation removes shame and it removes judgment. And when those two things are gone, you're allowed to be human for a second. And also, when those two things are gone, you sit in a really comfortable space of acceptance for where you actually are. Let's talk about the next one, rejection. Rejection sounds very similar to abandonment in a lot of ways. The difference is the experiences that we go through in terms of creating a rejection wound versus an abandonment wound. So the abandonment wound says someone left, someone's unavailable. Someone was inconsistent, whether it was physically or emotionally. That could be a parent leaving, a spouse leaving, divorce happening, any kind of inconsistency in the relationship that happens. Those types of things typically lead to an abandonment wound. So the core fear that you experience when you have an abandonment wound is being left alone, basically just unloved. The patterns that you'll see is just like the clinginess, the anxiety, overcompensating, the fixing. I'm going to have my hand in everything. Those are all side effects of abandonment. The focus with abandonment is the loss or the absence of someone not being there when you need them. Now, the rejection wound is a little different. This is when someone will just dismiss or criticize, and this is where you start to feel like you're just not good enough. So this might be something like you get teased a lot, you get bullied a lot, you're constantly compared to someone else, or maybe you're even just straight up told you're just not good enough. Now, the fear with this wound is being judged by other people or being criticized or just not feeling worthy enough. Now, the pattern that happens with these people is really, you could have fear of failure. You could avoid closeness or vulnerability or really going deep in a relationship with people. So you tend to always have like surface level relationships because you don't want to let people in. Definitely being a people pleaser is probably under the heading of something like this. And you're just always hiding yourself. Like you're never fully letting people see your true self. Instead of there being a loss or feeling like someone would not be able to actually support you, now with this one, it's more the fear of being judged or the fear of not being good enough, where you're not lovable and you're not accepted for who you are. Now you start overthinking every single situation. You start settling for less than you actually deserve, because if you don't feel worthy, then you don't have a high level of self-worth, which means you're not going to expect much in relationships. You're going to have a hard time with boundaries. This is where you start taking really crappy relationships, or there isn't really a standard for what you expect out of people. And even if you had high standards or you were trying to have high standards, having high standards is one thing, but you need boundaries in order to get those standards, because you're going to have to advocate for yourself. You're going to have to be okay being alone. You're going to be okay with saying, no, this actually doesn't work for me and I don't think that you're right for me. Like there has to be that level of confidence within a person, and that just doesn't happen when you don't have a high level of self-worth. I mean, both wounds, no matter if it's abandonment or rejection, you're not going to feel good in relationships. You're going to feel anxious in relationships. You're going to overcompensate. You're really going to struggle with feeling good enough for either the person in front of you, if they are a great person, or you're not going to feel good enough to be able to say, you're not good enough for me. So you're just going to take whatever comes along. With abandonment, there is just like a fear of losing support in order to be okay. Rejection is just the fear of being unworthy. Again, if you kind of go back to like a little therapy session here for a second and you take a step back, the most important thing with all of these wounds is what I said in the beginning with abandonment, is understanding who is the person that really gave this to you? Who is the person that criticized? Who is the person that judged? Who is the person that didn't make you feel like you were good enough? Whether it was in childhood, whether it was in adulthood, because just because majority of the wounds that we go through that have the most lasting impression on us is in childhood, we still go through wounds constantly in adulthood. And if you're unhealed and you haven't started self-parenting, which means I take full responsibility for myself, then you're going to make the responsibility of you on other people. And when that happens, I mean, nothing really good even comes from that, actually, because now you're at the mercy of someone constantly giving you validation, making you feel good. I mean, it's just no one's job to being able to soothe you. That's no one's job, no one's responsibility to be able to do those things for you. But when you're not taking full responsibility for yourself and you're not taking care of yourself mentally and emotionally, then you put that on other people. And then when you don't feel good about yourself, you blame the other person, where it's not their responsibility, it's yours, but you don't know it's your responsibility, nor do you even know what to do day in and day out to take care of yourself the best. And so the wound is just dictating your life. It's dictating the fact that this person is responsible for making you feel good inside when it's your job. You're, of course, attracting horrible people because you don't have high standards, because that self-worth is completely so incredibly low that you're just kind of taking whatever comes along, and then you just settle and you stay stuck in that dynamic for years and years. So it has to start with, who are the people that have made me feel this way? And not even blaming them, because at the end of the day, we kind of have to blame ourselves, because we gave that person the power over us to feel good. So if I'm giving someone else power over me, how can I be really mad at them for how they treated me? They're completely unconscious. They're completely wounded. They're completely unaware. They're narcissistic. They're codependent. They're whatever. And so everything that they're giving me, I can't get mad at them for it. It was my responsibility to not give them that power over myself. And even that right there, then you got to let that go, because then you can't blame yourself forever for doing something that you didn't even consciously know you were doing. It was something that you were doing unconsciously because you were unhealed. Well, now you're learning all of this and you're saying, okay, number one, I'm feeling very overwhelmed. And it is overwhelming, especially when you're hearing it for the first time, where just the aspect of, I'm responsible for my own self. I remember even just hearing that years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and thinking, wait, what? That's scary that I'm my own responsibility and I'm the one that has to take care of myself for the rest of my life. But here's a little bit of the comfort is you have been taking care of yourself your entire life. You have been the only person that has been in your head every single day for your entire life. Is really how you have been taking care of yourself. I would say 85% of the time, 90% of the time. But the rest of it that has weighed a lot has been what you give other people and what they should be giving you when they shouldn't. I mean, there should be a basic understanding of relationships and how people should pour into you or give to you and things like that. But they're also responsible for taking care of you. Like, why, if we really love someone, why do we want to do that to that person? But again, we're unconscious. And so are the relationships that you've been in. So is the other person that you've been in relationships with. And that's why those relationships didn't work. The betrayal wound. Let's talk about it, because if you've been discarded, if you've been let down, if someone just really disappointed you in a way that you never thought they could possibly do to you, then, pull up a chair. We're going to have a little powwow here for a second. The betrayal wound has everything to do with the parent, the caretaker, the partner violating the trust that you had in that person. They deceived you, they broke a promise, they didn't show up in a way that you expected them to, just based on the decency that you had, in your relationship. Just the human decency of who could possibly do that? Who could betray in that way? Who would lie? Who could go behind my back? Who could, cheat or constantly just know what they were doing and doing it over and over and over again? It's not really about the lying. It's not really about the deceiving. What it's about is the expectation that you felt safe with this person and now you don't. It's that deep sense that this person was supposed to be my anchor. This person, I had trust in this person. We built trust together, and now that trust is completely gone. So the examples for this kind of wound could be, so many things. It could be infidelity in the relationship. It could be cheating. It could be being lied to or being manipulated for years and years. It could be a friend or a family member, someone that you know, love and trust, and they broke a promise, or they kept information from you, where now there's just trust that's just broken in that relationship, where you can't fully feel safe and comfortable with that person because you don't know what else is there that I don't know about. You could have had a very stable childhood and situation, but then as an adult, you experience someone who maybe stole money from you, or that's when you experience infidelity. You never really had this kind of wound before, this kind of situation before, where someone that you really love and trusted betrayed you in such a way where you can't go back now. It's very difficult for a lot of people to be able to heal from this and not have, you are going to have a thought of a little paranoia, a little, I don't really know you, because you have to rebuild that trust again. And I really believe that even when you rebuild trust in a relationship after something difficult like infidelity or lying or someone deceiving you in such a way, don't really feel like you can ever fully get it back without looking at this person a little differently for the rest of your life. You put it in a place, you put it in a box, you don't touch it, because perhaps over time, this person really has shown you that they are a different person, but you can't ever unknow something. You can't forget what has happened. And when that happens, it causes the person who's the victim to have to do a lot of work. Granted, the person that did the deceiving, did the lying, has to do work themselves, but a lot of the work that they have to do has to do with self-forgiveness. They can say that they want you to forgive them, but that's not what they need in order to be able to move on. And the victim, forgiving the person that lied or deceived them is not going to just make that person feel completely better about themselves. They're going to have to forgive themselves, and they're going to have to do it time and time again. And most people that have lied or cheated or hurt, especially if they're very unconscious people and they're very unhealed and they lack that accountability, they lack empathy, they don't need you to forgive them. They don't care. And that's really difficult as the victim, because now you have to sit in the fact that not only has this happened to me, and now I have to deal with the ramifications of it happening. I also have to deal with the fact that you don't even care that you actually hurt me. Now that's another level of betrayal that you're having to face as the victim. The fear that ends up living inside of the victim is the fear of it happening again. And it could be, if you're trying to really work on a relationship where a person did lie or deceive you, whether it's a family member or a partner, the fear is, what if this happens again? I don't really know who you are anymore. So you have to rebuild trust again, which takes time. Another really big fear that stays with you for a lifetime, if it's not really dealt with, is the fear of being vulnerable, letting someone in, trusting people, and then this happening again. So of course, the overall fear is that it's going to happen again, but what ends up happening is that now we become fearful in relationships and we are scared to be vulnerable with new people because we think the new person is going to be like the old person. The fear of trusting you and then being disappointed again, or having to go through everything emotionally that I'm going through right now, is such a predominant wound that lives inside of people that it stops them from being in relationships. It stops them from getting close to people. It stops them from having the kind of friendships and relationships that they really would want in their lives, because this fear takes over. Everything that we go through in life, we can go through a lot. It's the aftermath that's difficult to deal with and process. It's difficult to live with the fear of it happening again and still being vulnerable and getting into relationships. That's much harder than just experiencing the tears that you're experiencing. Even though we tend to think, tremendous heartbreak and heartache, that it almost feels like we're dying to some extent. That is very painful, absolutely. But what happens after is the work that has to be done. And the work that has to be done is extremely difficult, because if the work that has to be done requires you to get to the next level, it requires you to be the next version of yourself, a healthier version of yourself. It requires you to go deeper into your own mental health, your own emotional health, learning how to parent yourself. You have to learn how to be able to do those things for yourself if you're going to overcome any of these wounds. How this will show up in your life if it goes unhealed is, now not only do you fear vulnerability, but now you're constantly testing people. You want to really see who people are. And to some extent, that can be a good thing, because that means that you're actually raising your standards a little bit. You're wanting to see who a person is before you just give them, yourself, or give trust. Trust now has to be earned. Some of that is healthy. Some of it can be very unhealthy, because now you're making a person who is trustworthy jump through hoops in order for you to feel okay in the relationship with them. The emotional walls that we sometimes put up in relationships where we fear intimacy so bad that we don't want a person to see us. I don't want you to see who I am. I don't want to have to rely on you or depend on you in any way, because that scares me. The hardest things that I've gone through, I always thought that surviving my divorce and going through that experience was difficult. And it was, to many, many extents. What I had to do after, especially when you get into a relationship with a good person, with a healthy person, now you have more that's going to come up, because you didn't realize all of this was living inside of you. And that's why I've said for years, yes, get to a place where you're really content and happy being alone and being single. Absolutely. That is the work that you have to do first. You have to absolutely get to a great place all by yourself, all alone, where you know how to take care of yourself and you're truly at peace. Doesn't mean all the wounds are gone. Doesn't mean, oh my God, I'm healed and I'm so much better than everyone else because I've done the work. No. It just means I know I'm healthy. I know I'm self-parenting. I know I'm focusing on my own mental health. I feel really great in my life. I don't have everything that I want to have. By the way, you never will, because the minute you have something that you want, you're going to want something else. But I digress. But I'm in a really great place. Once you get to that really great place and you start getting the things that you really want in life, whether it's the career, whether it's the money, whether it's the relationship, whatever, you're manifesting all day long and you're getting it all. Yes, you're going to feel happy. Yes, you're going to feel great. It will scare you and more will come up for you. There's only so much healing and working through some of the things that you've been through in your life, whether it's abandonment, betrayal, rejection, whatever. There's only so much you can do all on your own. You can't do it all on your own. You need to have someone come into your life, people, friendships, relationships, situations, experiences, romantic love, all of this. All of this comes into your life and it triggers something deeper inside of you that you couldn't have healed had you had just done it all on your own. So there's a lot that you will do on your own, but you will not do all of it on your own. You need relationships in order to trigger you so you can understand that you are still really struggling with this, that there is something deeper to this wound that you couldn't have done on your own, and this person is bringing it out in you. A really good relationship, healthy friendship, great situation, it will heal something deeper inside of you that you couldn't have done all by yourself. So let's take a little stop here for a second and let's understand the difference between all of these wounds so you can really understand. Abandonment, the fear of being left alone. Rejection, the fear of being judged, the fear of being unworthy. Betrayal, the fear of being lied to or being deceived. Abandonment will make you cling a little bit in relationships. Rejection will make you hide from relationships. And the betrayal will just make you be on guard. I'm looking around. I'm constantly questioning, who are you? Can I trust you? All of those things. Your walls are up. Healing the abandonment wound has to start with this first thing. So let's write this down. You have to admit what happened and just how it actually affected you. So you're going to have to feel. You're not going to minimize it. You're not going to rationalize it. You don't need to do anything right now other than just at least own how it made you feel. That means you're going to process everything. You're going to process the anger. You're going to process the hurt. And unfortunately, it's not something that you're just going to do in an hour session. It's going to ebb and flow. When it ebbs and flows and you're not on the phone with me or talking to a therapist or whoever it is that you're, hopefully utilizing to get you through this and give you the tools to not only get through it, but to overcome it. In the midst of you going in between your sessions, you have to self-parent, because when I'm not here, you are here, and you 2:00 at 3 a.m. when you wake up with massive anxiety, or a Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. when you're starting to feel worried and fear and all of those things, you have to be able to start doing this for yourself. That's why this is a practice. This is not something that's going to just happen overnight. I always like to be realistic on what this actually is going to look like, but it's something that you can definitely overcome, if not get completely 99% healed from. Those are the core 3 wounds that most people have inside of themselves. They've at least experienced one of those 3, if not all of them. And the abandonment wound is always going to be the predominant one. If you are really serious about doing the work, I'm going to tell you, really self-parenting is the only thing that you need to start learning how to do for yourself. The minute I get on the phone with anyone, no matter where they're at and what they're going through and what they're looking to get out of working with me, whether it's overcoming a betrayal or a relationship or going through a divorce or going through a breakup, or maybe they even want to start their own business and they're just in the midst of real intense goal setting, everything starts with your ability to take care of yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. The conversations that you have in your head every single day and how you're able to validate yourself and soothe yourself emotionally is the only thing that everyone should know how to do for themselves. It is mental health. It is the only thing that's going to help you to heal and get through future things that you're going to go through throughout the course of your life. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's podcast. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're healthy. I am about to guzzle some water right now and some hot water with lemon because I really have to get over this congestion right now. But thank you guys so much. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be in my office again. I'm glad to just have even the energy that I have right now. Thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in. If you're on YouTube and you're watching this, thanks for subscribing. Thank you guys so much for watching me and supporting this channel, this podcast, everything for all these years. I so appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.